Core to this computer. Okay, great. Matt Griggs, thank you for coming on to the podcast of Rebalancing Health and Performance. Um, we don't know super well, but I use your service as a surf coach back in 2013, 2014, was around that. And I had a really fantastic experience, which was different from what I experienced before from other surf coaches. Yeah, welcome here, and thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. And yeah, let's get into it. What is it you would like to talk about today?
Well, I want to start by, by you obviously, your background and the reason why I contacted you back then is because back then you were more focusing more into surf coaching, right? And you have coached some of the best surfer in the world, like Mick Fanning, uh, Taylor Wright, as well, mm, and in pure, I guess, of surf coaching in that sense. Um, um, but what was the turning point for you to realize that the performance, I guess, not I guess, in the water, weren't just a physical matter, but a mental matter for.
Yes. Well, it's one of those things where innately I already realized from a young age that we're dualistic in that way. There's the mechanics of how we can move the body, but then there's how emotion and feeling can promote good movement or interfere with it. And
Mm,
as a young professional surfer myself growing up, it was never the learning about re-entries and cutbacks that I found difficult, or even how to strategize a heat. Like that all made sense to me, but it was more about self-belief and more about not feeling like a loser if I lost, mentally, and not going up and down with results in a second
mm,
point. It was so I already realized how much emotion and feeling in our state of mind had a bearing not only on the quality of how we, in this case, ride a wave, but more importantly, the quality of how we live our life. At the time, this is not stuff that we learn at school.
mm.
You know what I mean? In school, we learn about everything else. No one really teaches you about you. You,
Yeah.
you learn a map of the world, but you don't learn a map of your mind. You learn about people, places, and things in an outward sense, but you don't necessarily learn about yourself and how to have greater self-awareness and how to have a strong state of mind so that you're not controlled so easily by anything outside of you. And you can surf, in this case, from a good feeling. Because every surfer that's listening to this will, and it's not just your surfing. When you feel good, you surf good. But when you don't feel good, you don't. You're
Yeah.
disconnected mentally. You're disconnected, physically too. So in that way, the body follows the mind. So I realized this a long time ago, and it wasn't until I um, uh, started studying the Keely that I had a way to understand the mind and had a way to harmonize it with my physical health. And even to this day, I'm 50 this year, and I still feel like I'm finding evolution and just new feelings in the surf, and I'm enjoying it and appreciating it more than ever.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what you just said, it reminds me of exactly that session that I had with you, that there was no camera involved, no filming involved. And I remember I went out there and then you called me back in and you told me that's um really stayed in my mind. And you told me it seems like that you have everything in your head. But one thing that I want you to do when you're going back out there is for the split second when you're getting into onto your feet, I want you to feel your feet on the board. And I
Mhm.
remember that made a huge difference. It's, I done video analysis before and stuff like that. I just feeling your feet on the board and then made a huge difference.
Yeah, it's surfing is a feeling, and balance is a feeling. And if you're not feeling it, how can you do it?
Mm-hmm.
You're it's easy in life, and certainly in surfing, to become distracted, to be thinking about something else. You know what I mean? And if your attention mentally is more focused on how it looks,
Mm.
because that's something I used to see a lot, less from the professionals, but some of the amateurs that were trying to get to that level, they were really concerned with how it looked on camera and, wanted to impress the coach and stuff like this. So all of a sudden their intention's on something else, and that compromises their performance. So the simplicity of bringing it back to um, a solid base, because the beginnings of learning how to be a good surfer is, and this is something I teach my children. I don't surf coach anymore. The only time
Mm.
I do it is when I do these retreats with Taylor Knox. But um, I teach my kids first position, 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 positioning in the lineup, or you're not catching waves,
Yeah.
positioning on the wave, or you're not, you know, flowing and you can't
Yeah.
create speed, and positioning on your board. If you can get those three right, you've got a good foundation to start surfing. And it's all those things are, a lot of them are feeling based. This is the reason why I surf still to this day, is this feeling of connection that it feels so good when you feel connected to the ocean, you're reading it and you're in the right place at the right time, not just in the ocean, but also on the wave. You feel like your board's an extension of your body. You feel really connected. To your earlier question, if you're thinking about who's on the beach or if you're thinking about how it looks, that's a disconnection.
Mm.
The foundation of surfing is quite simply balance.
Mm.
And as I said a moment ago, you feel balance, you don't think it. So if you're going to surf good, let alone live good, you've got to be able to access feeling. And when you can have that stability, you're as good placed as you can to do good surfing, because really good surfers they basically use more of their body and more of the wave. But if you don't have a baseline of stability, you'll swing out of control, as you extend and compress, as you rotate, you're going to move out of control because you don't have a solid foundation of balance and stability. Um, and with that too, I talk about this a lot. It's not just thinking about things that are on the beach or thinking about, it's getting out of, which is a strange thing to say, but getting out of like physical sense consciousness. And one thing that both Taylor and I both sort of like shake our head at, because we often have intermediate surfers that come on our trips and they've often been taught wrong. And because there's a lot of, opinions on what's good surfing and how to access it. And this whole thing about looking down the line. First of all, you're in physical sense consciousness, and where you're looking, you're not. Can you see how that's a disconnection?
Yeah. Yeah. You're looking ahead or try to predict something that hasn't really happened. So
That's right.
how can you look just down the line and say, oh, that's what I'm gonna do there?
Yeah, because when you get there, it might be different anyway, the scenario. So it takes a lot of courage and a lot of sort of self-trust and a lot of feel. And when as I'm explaining this, imagine people like Curran and Nocky and Taylor Knox does it extremely well too. His eyes are secondary.
Mm.
In other words, physical senses show you the outside world, and that's the sections that are coming, but you're not there yet. Um, so you need a grounding in where you are,
Yeah.
and you feel where you are, you look where you're not. And
Yeah.
if there's too much attention on where you're not, it creates a disconnection to balance. So ultimately, it's a balance of both, where your eyes serve as a guide of what's coming, but you're more grounded in the feeling sense of balance and connection to the board, and your eyes are staying in a tighter radius to where you are.
Yeah.
Because if you look too far down the line, that's where you're going to go, and you'll just race to the channel and maybe do a cutty at best. You're not going to go up and down and really surf in the pocket where good surfing is done.
Yes, yes, yes. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned Taylor, and absolutely, that's exactly that. Like if you're looking at him, surfing is really tight in the pocket, utilizing every single inch of the wave in a very sh short radius from where it is. And yeah, that's definitely yeah, a very good, very good pictures of what you just
Yeah.
described.
Relate that to, I don't know, Roger Federer hitting a forehand. His eyes are right there on the ball.
Yes.
Tiger Woods making a swing. He doesn't need to. watch the ball. He knows by feeling where it's going.
Mm.
Um, so as a comparison point for any of the listeners out there, watch anyone that has great flow. Think Ethan, think, Taylor, Knox, think Curran, think Oki. Uh, watch what their eyes are doing and
Yeah.
compare that to an intermediate surfer
Mm.
and practice it.
Mm.
More of your attention in the feeling of balance, less on where you're going. Let that be a secondary thing, just a secondary guide, and just sort of trust when you get there, you know what to do, and you'll adapt to whatever scenario is in front of you.
Mm. Yeah, that's definitely relate to me. And I mean, probably a lot of the listener, like when you get up to your feet, like you suggested back then, feel the board underneath you. But then again, as soon as we started moving on the surface of the waves moves, there are certain current and drags and or loss of power in the wave, and that comes down to feeling and be just right there in that section where you are.
Yep,
And yes, that's all information coming back
that's
to.
right. And if you, because every surfing is like life, it's a game of adaptation. You never do the same reentry twice.
Mm.
Like because the distance between the bottom turn and the top turn is different if it's a small wave or a big wave. The line you have to draw, the texture on the face, the speed you have, the power in the wave, the lack of power in
Mm.
the wave. There are so many elements that
Mm.
need is information to adapt your technique. Even the board you're riding, you adapt your technique for a certain board, um, and every section. I mean, everyone can probably relate this to say they go to Indo or Hawaii and then they come home and their surfing feels a bit weird for a couple of days because the
Mm.
ocean's different. The period of the swell's different. It probably feels weaker and their board's reacting differently. You don't need to take 3 or 4 days to adapt. You can do that straight away if you know how. And the same as section to section. Every section is different. So if you don't take a moment to create another foundation of balance between turns, wipe off any excessive energy, any tension from the previous turn, and go into the next turn fully committed, understanding the speed you have, the section you have, um, the turn choice you're going to go for, and fully commit to it with the appropriate speed, with the appropriate tension levels, because a layback, you're using more power, you're using more energy, you're using more muscle and probably more tension versus something that requires a bit more finesse, like a whitewash climb or a floater or something or a
Yeah.
barrel.
Yeah.
So if you can learn to adjust your energy levels and learn to adjust your intensity and for each turn, that's how you can surf better. And to do that, you need to obviously it comes back to mindset to let go of anything that's happened in the past. I mean, what
Yeah.
a metaphor for life, right? And be
Mm.
fully present and fully engaged in the moment.
Yeah.
That's the flow state, I guess, we're all looking for in the surf and in life.
Mm. Yeah, actually, for what you you were just describing, it's just remind me. A couple of weeks ago, I interviewed Nick Carroll, and we were talking about things that are important just to improve your surfing, just for everyone. But a small things that you can do. And he was talking about paddle efficiency, right? And how the paddle efficiency to catch wave. And he was making the example of real beginner that they have that scrambly paddles, right? But then once you get, even if you get that efficiency, right, Matt, and you probably agreed or have experienced that yourself. Sometimes it's not even about the efficiency of your paddle because you feel in the wave how it pulls you or push you and where you are on the wave. And sometimes you kind of don't even need to paddle because the wave has enough push, right? Or you are in the right spot.
Yes, more that. um, you watch someone like John paddle a pipeline or Kelly, or Chopu, they sometimes they only take 4 or 5 strokes
Exactly.
because their positioning is so accurate and so perfect. So it's more efficient versus someone. and this goes for any sport or anything. The better you are, the more efficient you are, the less energy you need to do something. When you watch a beginner, they miss a lot of waves because they're not positioning themselves accurately, and they use a lot of energy to get a lot less done.
Hmm.
Whereas when you get better at something, no amount of force can make up for a limited technique.
Yeah.
And when you have technique and a really good technique, which speaks to biomechanics and proprioception, and like say Ethan does, that's when you access efficiency. He has, more than almost anyone today, I feel like, found a technical efficiency that has finesse, not force, yet
Mm.
it's still so powerful. That to
Yes.
me is surfing, like
Yeah.
surfing. It's such a beautiful art form and such
Mm.
a beautiful sport. If it even seems limited to call it a sport, but it should look graceful. It when it's done correctly, it should feel graceful and flowy. I don't personally appreciate the stop-starty forced surfing and the 4 or 5 stage bottom turns and jittery surfing that I see a little bit on the tour from some of the
Mm.
people. I I don't know if the judges realize how hard it is to hold one line in and out of every single turn, yet
Mm.
still do a big turn.
Yeah.
That craftsmanship, that's such big good surfing. Um, yeah, I to me, I'd like to see that rewarded a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible to look at him, and yeah, it's like you said, it's a form of art, and there is no one else on tour so far that has reproduced it so well. I mean, Taylor definitely was one that had that type of surfing. Meek to and Joel to some extent. I feel like they probably the biggest name, and Oki as well. Yeah, Oki and
Yeah.
Tom. But yeah, in the nowadays is Ethan is combining all of those together into his obviously his own style, but yeah, creating that continuous line, continuous pushing and dragging, and yeah, is
Yeah, because
incredible.
like again, surfing's adaptations. So you think about Oki at Bells, it doesn't matter if it's 2 foot rincon or 12 foot bowl,
Mm,
drawing one line off the bottom.
mm.
And that bottom turn, can go from Cronulla to the Gold Coast. And
Yes.
it did. Metaphor, of course, but he can he knows that precise time, like he can hold his rail and drive for so long before he uses his rotation and extension to accelerate towards the target. So he's got such a beautiful drivey, still to this day, I think the best backhand bottom turn that's ever existed. Versus if someone doesn't know how to do that, they typically need 4 or 5 goes at it
Mm,
to cover that kind of distance, and that turns into a 4 or 5 stage bottom turn, and the surfing loses its I don't know, its structure or its credibility or its purity is probably the best word.
So when you look we look at the landscape of surfing today, do you feel people are over focusing on the physical engine and completely neglecting the driver or the mind?
Absolutely, yeah. There's more attention to it now, like which is a good thing to see. There's much more openness to say sports psychs and things like that than there has been in the past. It's like there was this weird mentality that unless there was something wrong with you, you didn't need to see a physio, you didn't need to see a physical trainer. That sort of happened first, that you could actually train your body, to be a better surfer. You could and more recently we've seen the same thing with the mental side. People's psychology is that you can actually train it. You don't need to go and see a sports psych or a therapist or a meditation teacher. Anyone that understands the mind, just because something's wrong.
Hmm.
You can train the mind to be more aware, to be more sensitive to feeling, to be less fearful. And they're the two main things that meditation gives people, is more awareness and less fear.
Hmm.
So it is nice to see that, but I still wonder, because it's catching up, like it was cool to hear you tell me you're a Czech practitioner because I really admire that craft. I do. It was part of what helped Mick Fanning out of his injury and set him up for that first world title. Very holistic approach. They were I think Paul Chek was probably the first real holistic viewpoint of health.
Mm, mm, mm.
So I earlier in the days too, I learned a lot from that and learned how to have a holistic model myself where, in those days it was physical, technical, tactical, psychological,
Yeah.
gave me a framework, a holistic framework to structure our learning and our development. And the psychology part is the biggest influence because I've got a 10-year-old son and I can, everyone that's got a small child that's learning how to surf, the biggest influence is fear.
Mm.
Like, because it's scary when you're that age. And of course you don't push your children, but it's scary. It's a foreign environment. They don't know if they're going to drown and you
Yeah.
can't get that stuff. Um, People fear, looking stupid. They fear falling. They fear how it looks. They fear. So we need to, if you're going to be good at surfing, let alone good at life, we have to have a way to let go of our fears and to evolve beyond them,
Yeah.
where you're living and surfing from understanding and a good feeling, not from a feeling of fight or flight and stress and fear and survival, where
Mm,
the wave just became something that you, like your surf, or dare I say it, someone's life becomes something that you just got through because of stress.
mm,
Um, I mean, if when you can really access feeling and you really start to understand the mind, you realize the mind precedes the body.
mm,
So it's the most important thing to train, in my perspective.
mm, mm, mm. I mean, I don't know if I can say is a little bit out of that topic, but one things that I that I that I believe on myself, that surfing is a skill, and in terms of there is not amount of chin-ups, push-ups, or squat jumps, or let's say using unbalanced board and stuff like that can really teach you. I still believe that the physical performance are important, like the um, having a strong and healthy body that allows you to do certain things is really important. But that's my idea that, it's through surfing, practice surfing. And obviously that's a big thing because like you said, um, what is good surfing and we can break it down in a million ways, but practicing the right technique, right? Um, that gives you better skills and your skill improve. Do you agree that surfing is a skill rather than something that you can train out of a gym?
Yeah, no, the the training in the gym gives you potential to surf better, but you'll have to surf better. You'll have to practice surfing in conjunction with that. And specifically, how is your training relating um, to how you want to surf and how it needs to have some correlation there where the movement patterns, the explosive strength required, the mobility required is there, so the physical body doesn't have any limitations. Then if there's any limitations, they're either technical, tactical, or psychological.
Mm,
They're tactical, that's more associated with wave selection or, like actually having a goal that you're going into the surf with, something that you're working on. So you're not just surfing from repetition and
mm,
surfing how you always surfed. You're actually moving into new territory and trying something new. You've got a system of feedback afterwards so you can continue to grow. That speaks to all the tactical side. Or at least some of it. And then obviously you've got the technical side of what movement patterns and how can I move my body in relationship to my board to surf better. So if you can build a technique, a tactical game, and a physical body to do good surfing, you're going to have far less limitations. But if you have a limited mind, I've seen many that were potentially world title threats that never were because they were just riddled with anxiety or fear and lack of self-belief or conviction and decisiveness and knowing,
Mm,
they're all states of mind. And uh, to have all that come together is a rare thing where someone's um, got that level of self-confidence and awareness and self-trust on a wave
mm,
in moments that really matter,
mm,
where fear still doesn't get in the way. That's very good self-control on a
mm,
mental level. Um, and without that component, not only will your surfing be limited, but probably more importantly than that, your enjoyment of it is going to be limited because, I mean, what equates to a good surf that you caught a certain amount of waves or did a certain amount of turns? Is it a quantity scale or is it a quality scale of how you felt
mm, mm,
in this ocean experience, of the joy you felt, the connection you felt, the appreciation of being in the ocean, the
mm,
appreciation that of the art form, without that deeper connection, your experience in the surf and therefore your experience of life tends to run a little shallow, and you tend to need something from the second point to feel good about the surf. And that's when people get triggered that, I didn't catch a certain amount of waves or I didn't surf at my best, therefore it wasn't a good surf.
mm.
Um, uh, that can be a road to frustration and, you know, not a good pathway. So absolutely the mind, which is to do with thoughts and emotions and feelings, it has the biggest influence not only on our surfing but on our life. Uh,
Mm.
that is without doubt.
Mm. I want to ask you, can you explain to our listener and to myself more in details? Because I knew you back then when you were just focusing predominantly in surf coaching. Can you explain the core philosophy behind nature of success and how you apply it to, I mean, not necessarily, yeah, everyday people and not just the world champions?
Yeah, God, for a few decades now, I've had such a fortunate life where I've got to have a front row seat to what it means to master your craft. I've seen what it takes to experience mastery and what it takes to experience success by how most people measure it. So I've seen what it takes, but I've also seen the toll it can take on
Mm.
people.
Mm.
But the nature of success was born. First of all, I was in a time of my life where I was very just curious about, more spiritual evolution and quality of life. Uh, I was in nature a lot, pondering on the nature of life, the nature of success, and the nature of the mind, etc. And that's where the idea was born for this tangent away from just surf coaching, because I was just, suffice to say, the world doesn't need any more pro surfers. You know what I mean? Certainly, it needs more good people, and it's very nice to see when people are real and inspiring in the way they're talking and relating, and about life, not just about winning heats. So I was just looking for something more
Mm.
from myself and life, and that ended up becoming what the nature of success was. Um, it's a marriage between spiritual evolution and peak performance, where how you live matters, not just how you perform.
Mm.
Where how we treat people matters, where our quality of life, happiness, you know what I mean, care, compassion, wisdom, um, all these states of mind are super important, not just the mastery of our craft in an outward sense.
Yeah.
Um, this is 20 years ago, and it was less cool back then to do something like this, but
Mm.
it was something I was so inspired to bring. And, lucky for me, there was some older souls that were, turn up on the business front because I'd always had this holistic model of performance. I think they appreciated it at an outside perspective where, while I work with executives and, owners of big business, etc., day to day, and I find that world quite fascinating. Less the business side of it and the money making side of it. I'm less concerned with that, just the people side of it and the care for our fellow human beings. And these are all leaders that are influencing other people. So the importance of helping them to lead well and drive this evolution in humanity away from a competitive, controlling, greedy creature, which obviously that world's riddled with, into a more caring and compassionate and kind one. Um, that is helping the people they lead as people first and as professional second, so that they are not just acting from selfish gain and control, but they are contributing to the common good. It is really the heart of the nature of success, because now you can feel good not only about what you're doing and that you're putting food on the table and can pay for your mortgage and that you have job security because you're learning how to master your craft, but you like who you are and you like how you feel. That's, to lose ourselves in the process of success is not what it's about. We should be finding ourselves in the experience of life. We should be growing in self-awareness and self-mastery, not succumbing to stress. So that was something I really wanted to solve. And that's what the nature of success is about, is just helping people, as people first, as professionals second. And yeah, I feel very fortunate to be able to do this. I feel very fortunate to have, first of all, to live it myself. And then, because you can't share what you don't understand, or at least you shouldn't. You can't teach what you don't understand. And, I feel very fortunate that I, get to live this life, and I have learned what I've learned about the mind, about performance. And I've had so many wonderful, amazing experiences with so many amazing individuals, not just people like Mick, but, some in other sports and in other, now in the business world. So I'm very fortunate, and I just want to promote the common good, and because I have a good understanding of performance, and I am a performance geek, that'll always be a part of me. And I always love talking about that and helping people reach this sort of level of mastery with whatever craft they have, but not in a way that compromises who they are as people. That's something I feel like as humanity we haven't always got right, and the nature of success is about getting that part right. Sorry, Gio, you've lost volume there.
Yes. Yeah, in that process we can lose ourselves, and that's really important to remain true to our persona. And yeah, maintain those core things that are important to us and makes us feel good.
That's right. More your essence, because your persona is more associated with your personality, of how your personality has been conditioned by this world and outwardly facing how things look. But then there's your essence of who you really are. That's what I try to get to the heart to, not just in myself, but help my clients. So you can certainly have some intentions around values and life philosophy, and having some self-awareness around how you want to live and what success looks like for you and how you want to feel in this world. So you have something to go after. That is based in a feeling, not just in a doing. And within this holistic mindset, there are a lot of different ways to frame it. Like skills, which is what you can do. There's knowledge, which is what you know, and then there's emotion, which is how you feel. And I can help people on all those three areas. They're going to develop a pretty complete game and a pretty complete understanding and a complete package to not just perform well, but to live well, and to hopefully inspire other people to do the same.
Yeah, super important. Your work a lot with detaching from the outcome, right? So, and how does letting go of the need to surf well actually allow a surfer body to perform better and more and fluidly? I guess that's related to surfer and to obviously the business world, right?
Yeah, in life. Yeah, so if you're needy, and everyone's been around needy people before, remember what we're looking for in life is what we don't have. So if you're in need of something, you don't have it. And the outside world cannot fulfill all those needs. Certainly, if you're a cold, I can give you a jumper, or if you're hungry, I can give you food, but I can't give you acceptance. I can't give you confidence. That only comes from within. Happiness, I can share mine, but you have to earn these things yourself. And when people become too needy of something else to make them feel good, and this was the trap that I saw in professional sport, not just in professional surfing, that if your peak in your sport was winning a gold medal or, winning a competition or whatever, and that's the best you've ever felt, and you keep trying to live through that feeling, it degrades in time, and you can't keep living through something that isn't happening anymore.
Mm,
Um, so how can you not be controlled by everything outside and be free of everything outside and just live how you want to live? And this is part of, say, Tyler Wright's power when she was winning her world titles. She didn't fear losing,
mm,
she didn't. Um, Whereas most people do, and this gets them into a place where they're trying not to lose. They
mm,
become very controlling and they feel pressure. And if you're feeling pressure, that's because your mind's on something other than you. And there can be physical pressure, like the volume of a big wave and its gravity pushing down on you. Then there can be mental and emotional pressure, which is going to be fear, of an outcome or fear of how it looks. And when something outside of you is pressing on you, even though this is an intangible, non-linear, abstract fear, it still feels like pressure, just not a
mm.
physical pressure. And now this pressure is controlling you, and it's going to compromise your performance and quality of life, because we're always at our best when we're calm, when we're centered, and when there's no fear interfering with us. Um, but how many people have really courageously, humbly, and honestly faced their fears? um, that is where you're going to earn true mental strength, and when they're not controlling you anymore, and that's where you'll find freedom. And that's why we call it free surfing, right? It's, to me, it's got nothing to do with whether you got a singlet on or not. It's just got to do with your state of mind. If you're free, you're free surfing. And if you're not free surfing, what are you? You're surfing with restriction. And then we need to identify, where's that restriction coming from? Why am I putting these pressures on myself? Why has it become about something else, not how I want my surfing to feel and how I want to live my life? And we've lost control. We've lost our self-mastery, which is self-mastery is the ability not to be controlled by anything that isn't you. We experience the world, but there's us and there's everything else, and we want to stay grounded in our essence, and we want to stay grounded in our own experience of life, and learn to one by one detach from anything that's interfering with that, which is where meditation comes in to help people let go of anything that they're hanging on to that's influencing them in a negative way, in a restrictive way, that's putting pressure on them, that's hurting them in some kind of way and making them feel emotions they don't like, or negative thoughts that they don't like, that are going to distract you away from the essence of playfulness, the essence of exploring a wave, the essence of having experiences you want to have, without the interference of fear.
Yes, I guess what it came to my mind when you were talking about Ella and the fear, what fear can do on you is like, I guess makes you not be yourself. Because if you fear losing a title and then you start surfing in a in a different way that you would have surfed, right? To just protect the title, it wouldn't be like you.
Yes. Yeah, you know, the fear thing, it makes people surf in protection because you get into fight or flight. So if in a surfing sense, if your mind becomes chaotic because of adrenaline, that's unstable energy. And remember, surfing is about stability, not instability.
Mm.
So there's an example of how the mind can influence the body and make it unstable, not because of a technical flaw, because of a mental one, an interference in this case. Or in a business sense, a lot of my leaders might fear public speaking, for example. So all of a sudden, someone that has a lot of knowledge to impart gets a little shaky and gets a little nervous and a little anxious, um, and they can't find the words they're looking for. It's another example, or a real estate agent I might be working with, they're so needy of someone's attention or competitive, triggered by adrenaline, that now they're talking too much with too much energy, and it's very controlling, and they're not paying attention to how the other person is feeling. Their own needs unconsciously are driving the conversation, and they've lost this connection to the particular person because they've become disconnected themselves. So we adrenaline is only necessary when we're actually in danger. That's it. The rest, you don't want to surf or live from your lowest evolved part, which is your ego, which governs instinct and fight or flight, adrenaline, etc. it'll age you before your time. It'll create instabilities. It'll drain your energy. We want to learn to live and surf with finesse, not force. Uh,
Mm.
and what a cool goal.
Absolutely. Definitely something that I try to do myself in the water. Try to surf um, effectively, smoothly, with speed and flow. Sometimes I achieve that, sometimes I'm less, but yeah, try my best. The general population out there of surfers only kind of surf few times a week, um, so they have so many hours to surf per week, right? They don't have too many hours. But how do you think a technique like a Kili meditation help them to drop the baggage of their daily life and actually be more present?
Yeah, very easily because it helps. It's only a 5 minute meditation practice, and it helps people calm through all the distracting head noise that disconnects them to feeling and helps them become more heartfelt and more connected to their own essence within. It helps people detach from fears, not just the brain chatter and all the other disturbances. So it's for me, it's been the most helpful thing that I've ever learned and I've ever taught. And it also helps people access that enjoyment and that appreciation, to get out of that general fear that most people have, a fear of not being good enough or a fear of looking stupid or a fear of failure, and make their surfing about it's more personal. Like, how do you want to surf and how do you want this surf to go? And it's got nothing to do with anyone else. Like,
Mm.
no one's watching and no one really cares that much. The same as golf, you see it all the time. People are so scared about how it looks. Um, you should be more concerned about how it feels, and the practice of Keely meditation helps you access that feeling and helps you detach from anything that's interfering with that feeling and interfering with the true essence of who you are.
Mm.
Um, so it's a very practical and a very inspiring way to experience personal and spiritual and surfing development.
Yeah. So true. Evolving at 360 degrees, all right? Like as an individual.
Yeah, I mean, it's just for anyone listening, does your mind influence your surfing? Yes. Okay, so what is the mind? Where
Mm.
is the mind?
Mm.
These are the things that psychology often can't answer, but the Keely does. Um, so part of the basic principles of the Keely is specifying the difference between the brain and the mind, helping people um, find that light of awareness within, to become more consciously aware and to understand how emotional baggage and misunderstandings and non-understandings can interfere with our life experience and how to let go of them so you can find a more pure experience of yourself and of your life.
Mm.
It's not the be all and end all, if you want to be a good, you'll still need to learn technique. You'll still probably, especially if you're aging, you'll still need to do mobility work and strength work. You'll still need to eat well and sleep well and, hydrate well and recover well. But the mind has the biggest influence on our quality of life and our quality of surfing.
Mm.
80%. And, I barely surf. Um, I still surf. I shouldn't say that. I don't surf as much as I used to, but I still feel like I can access that level. Um, Interestingly enough, I'm more flexible than I've ever been just because there's less tension in me mentally.
Mm.
And I'm 50 this year. Yeah, like in this craze of biohacking and longevity right now, here's an interesting question. What's going to um, serve your longevity more, a good diet or your will to live,
Mm.
your enjoyment of life,
Mm.
happiness?
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
you love your life. Why would you want to leave if you live your life?
Mm.
What's going to influence your flexibility more? I've just learned I don't stretch anywhere near as much as I used to when I was a pro surfer, yet I'm more flexible.
Mm.
Go
Mm.
figure that. It's because I meditate and I have less anger in me and less tension and not trying so hard. I'm getting in my own way. I'm less mentally rigid.
Mm.
So therefore my body responds and from the mind.
Mm.
This is a more of an inside out approach. My philosophy of life now and how I work with people, because that's how life works. It's an inside out job. It's It's not outside in. We're looking for self-mastery, and that's the ability not to be controlled by anything outside of you.
Mm. Yeah, totally. I actually did a little post that was about that, like how with all this bombardment of self-hacking, self-improvement and don't get me wrong, as a Czech practitioner, uh, I do have some sort of routine, but I actually trying to be flexible, to not creating any cages for myself because there is a limitation that are created by having all this right self hack or routines or do or don't or is becoming is becoming a form of stress itself, you know.
Really? Yeah, like I mean, if you're just feeling good physically, that's going to be limited. And there are just, the Keely once again gives you this basic framework of how the mind works, not just inclusive of the basic principles of the Trinity. And if we use that as a bit of a framework to look at the obvious statement that everyone wants to feel good, like
Mm,
that's why they would listen to this, or that's why they would do something because they want to feel good.
mm,
There's physical feeling, and that's why we train. That's why we eat well. That's why, we try to recover well, etc. There's mental feeling, which is the association with knowledge, and it always feels good to learn.
mm,
Like hopefully people are learning some things today. And then there's emotion. Like, what use is any of that if you don't feel an appreciation for your own life? You don't feel happiness. You don't feel love. You don't feel compassion for your fellow human beings and for yourself. You don't feel care. That it's going to be if your life doesn't have feeling, you feel destitute. Everything feels shallow and without meaning. So once again, this is like part of something I just seen the value myself, and what I try to promote in other people is to, live and perform at their highest potential, but with more meaning,
mm,
and a better feeling. And when you help someone with knowledge, like you might be showing someone a wood chop or something, and getting the technical aspects of it right, but of how to move the body in relationship to the cable, etc. So they're learning proprioception, they're learning knowledge. But if they feel from you that you really care about them,
mm,
what I mean, and you're a caring person, now they've got good knowledge, but they also feel cared about. And that's
mm.
such a beautiful thing, between people that can often be missing. Um, so are you getting the most out of your life if you're not feeling it?
Mm.
How do you access feeling? Once again,
Yeah.
the process of Keely meditation helps you calm through all these distractions in our ego and our intellect, which is associated with the linear world of brain
Yeah.
chatter, belief systems of, proving ourselves, etc., and into just the essence of who you are and how you want to live, and the process of understanding in your
Mm,
spiritual evolution.
mm. Yeah. Everything that we have talked about today completely shift how we should approach progression, right? In terms of how we should look about going about to our goals and that we have. And for the surfer listening who wants to drive deeper into the mental framework, where they should start, what do you think they should look for?
Yeah, they should follow their own feeling of what feels best for them and explore what they feel drawn to in any particular time. If the practice of Keely meditation resonated, then there's lots of different entry points. There's an app that's $5 or something, and the founder Ron W. Rathbun will take you through the practice. It's a 5-minute meditation practice, so you'll get the technique. If you wanted to dive a little deeper, you can spend $30 on a book. The yellow troubleshooting the mind book is probably the best starting point. Not only to how to do the practice technically, but um, uh, the basic principles of the mind, which includes what the Keely is, conscious awareness, brain function, mind function, dysfunction. So when you hear something like all your answers within you, the Keely gives you a map to that within,
Mm.
um, and helps you start to troubleshoot your mind. So you can do that. There's also some, if you just wanted to do it in your own private time, and that's the beauty of the practice too of Keely meditation, you don't necessarily need a teacher. It teaches you to become your own teacher. So, I don't want to be a salesy kind of guy here. I just want to help people. Um, so that's the cheapest parts. If you wanted a bit more instruction, there's a virtual program that we created, myself and Ron, that's very cheap and very accessible. You can find that on either the Nature of Success or the Keely websites, where you have hours of tuition to go through the basic principles in your own time. And once you learn the basic principles and once you learn how to do the practice, just go about it. And if you feel like you would like more help, I run a class in Cronulla once a month these days when I'm in town. Um, so people can come to that and ask their questions and dive a little deeper.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, back then when I did that coaching session with you, you handed me over the little blue book of Kili meditation back then, and I practiced Kili meditation for a while after that, and then started back again in 2016, practicing again. Now I don't practice specifically Kili meditation in everyday life. I'm currently doing another interpersonal journey course, and so I've been practicing those type of meditation. But yeah, I can definitely say that the Kili meditation is pretty powerful. Surprisingly enough, even though you may meditate for 5 minutes and it's still incredibly powerful. I did the Vipassana for 10 days and and that was powerful, but Kili is not any less powerful in 5 minutes of your day. Um,
Yeah, because we can only evolve so much at a time, and the Vipassana is great, but it tends to be more on the extreme end. Um, So we need something that's sustainable and that's practically doable every day. And Kiwi meditation is great at just learning to still your mind, because that's what true meditation is, when your mind is still at one point, and contemplation, where you just sit quietly and you meditate for 5 minutes and then you contemplate. How do I feel about my life? What am I learning and how will I change? And you document anything noteworthy about your process of self-realization, so that you're starting to evolve,
hmm.
your life.
So I know that you run some pretty amazing successful retreat. Um, and some of they more focus on corporate, right? But you still do some that are related to surfing, right? More specific to surfing.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I team up with Taylor Knox, who's, my best mate, and has 20 to 25 years experience in the Keeley. Not to mention, perhaps before Ethan came along, the most technically sound surfer of all time.
Mm,
Nick's favorite surfer, my favorite surfer growing up, and I think
absolutely,
just,
my too.
yeah, and just a quality human being, a quality person. So we run two surf-based retreats a year. We do one in the Maldives, which is sold out, unfortunately, every year. We just have the same people that keep coming back. But we're doing another one in November. Taylor's coming all the way out from the States, and at Crescent Head. So if some of this material resonated with people and you wanted to, we haven't even really talked about surf technique. You wanted to learn a little bit more about surf technique from myself and Taylor. We do a little bit of videoing and give some technique and help people with their boards. But we also do some physical stuff every morning. Like share some of the stuff we've learned over the years from, Czech, from DNS to foundation training, yoga, and strength and conditioning stuff. Um, and then we sit down every day and do Kili meditation and have a group class where we help people with the basic principles of the Kili and deep diving into their mind. So that's a very worthwhile experience if someone wanted to get the most out of their mind and out of their surfing.
How long does it go for?
It's just a long weekend, so yeah, 3 nights, 4 days.
Okay.
And Crescent Head's a beautiful spot. We've got a great retreat space that has beautiful food, and you're in nature. And the back beaches of Crescent give us a lot of options for all levels of surfing.
Mm-hmm. Um, Before we completely heading toward the end, I just wanted to ask you if you feel like there is something else that you like to share for intermediate surfer that may be listening, that something that you feel valuable.
Okay. On a technical level, yeah, once again, position, position, position. Like go into the surf, identifying first of all, what kind of surfing you would like to do and what waves you would like to be on to give yourself the best opportunity to do that. Get yourself some lineup points, etc., so that you're going into the surf mindfully with a plan that will align with what it is you would like to experience and practice. Um, when you're on the wave, some simple technical things of, we said this at the top of the session, be more grounded in the feeling of balance. Let your eyes and where you're looking be secondary so you feel connected. One basic principle of surfing that is probably the most important on top of that would be something that I just call alignment that we would have talked about on the day I coached you. And the same as some of the leaders I work with now, they want their staff, all their processes, all their systems to be aligned to the common goal. Let's say your common goal is to do a carving top turn. You want all your systems to be aligned to that. That means
Mm,
your mind is fully committed and also means your body is in a position to maximize the turn's potential.
mm,
And the alignment I speak of on a technical level is having your hips and your shoulders and your stringer together
mm,
always. A lot of intermediate surfers surf disjointed. Their upper body moves way too early. Um, if they can just practice having that alignment between, on a technical level, from their hips and shoulders and stringer, that they're always together, they'll feel more connected. They'll get more power. They'll get more control. They'll get more drive, and they'll get more flow. And that's everything from a simple cutback to an air reverse to a floater to a bottom turn. As soon as if your upper body rotates before you've even got the rail in the water, you've lost half your power before it's practically usable.
mm,
So there's a little technical tip, and yeah, just go into every surf with something that you would like to work on,
mm,
that you feel drawn to, and something you just like to explore. And then come out of the surf with some reflection. How did I go? And what could I do that would be better next time? So you feel like you're just engaged with the learning process. And to me, surfing is just another avenue to realize the power of the mind and realize the power of human evolution and the power of feeling like you're progressing, which I think is a feeling everyone's looking for, that they're actually learning, because it kind of sucks when you feel like you're just going around in circles and you're not improving.
mm,
If you're not improving, that's because there's something missing or there's something blocking. Usually the block is fear and brain chatter or a bad technique. What's missing is usually you know um, a technical piece, or it could be a tactical piece, or it could be a logical piece. It could be any of the four. But yeah, go into every surf knowing what you want to work on. Come out with some reflection on what you learned and how you'll change for the next one. Do your meditation practice so you're surfing from a good feeling, and enjoy it.
mm,
More than anything, have an appreciation that you're in the ocean. As Taylor would say, it's look at it as an ocean experience. Like you're in nature, and there's a lot to enjoy and a lot to appreciate about that. So make sure you're feeling it. You know what I mean? And you're accessing that appreciation and that joy for something that you get to experience.
mm. Hey, while you were talking, I thought about another question. I don't know if we have time. Do we have time?
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you because that's the one thing not necessarily because I'm a surf coach myself, or because I'm not, but is something that comes up a lot. Arm position. Do you think that the arm are so important, as more important than other positioning of the body as you doing turns and
Yeah, they're they're as important as each other. The further you get away from the board, there's probably less importance, but the initial feeling of connection is really with your feet and your legs and compressing and extending. Um, but the upper body certainly has a huge role to play in surfing. So um, for me, there's biomechanics and there's technique that works and basic principles that work. But in saying that, and I say this to the leaders that I coach too, there might be some basic principles that denote good sales techniques or good leadership skills, but there's still plenty of room for your own self-expression, or what in surfing you'd call your own style.
Hmm.
So please decide how you want to surf, like how
Hmm.
do you want your style to be?
Yeah.
So anyway, if you think of, say, a discus, or even how someone hits a tennis ball, their arms are usually around shoulder height. And that's when they're going to be open and free to rotate as efficiently and as powerfully as possible. If your arms drift slightly above or below your shoulders, it doesn't really matter that much, whatever style you prefer or whatever you find more efficient for you. But certainly you want to learn to use every available resource, including your arms or any part of your body, including your mind, in the direction that you want to go. So a big wrap means you have to really swing your arms and you have to rotate your whole body, but your arms are just extensions of your core.
Mm.
And so they should all move at once. But if you've got one arm going one way, another arm going the other way, and you're disjointed in your movement, you're going to be disjointed in your surfing, hence the alignment I spoke about. So the arms are certainly important, but they need to be spoken about holistically, in terms of moving together with the rest of your body in unison.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Matt. Um, where is the best place for our listener to find you, to know more about your work, to reach out to you?
Sure. Yeah, the nature of success is the website .com.au. I have, Insta and LinkedIn. That's just my name, Matt Griggs. Um, yeah. So if they feel inspired, they can find more inspiration there. And yeah, I appreciate having the opportunity to talk about things that are important. And I I hope it resonates with people, and I hope they act on whatever it is that inspired them today to not just surf at a high level, but to live at a higher level.
Important, super important. Matt, this was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Really generous of you. I really appreciate it. What else? Thank you.
You don't want to go. Oh yeah, once again, thank you. And all the best, man. Like, I hope your check stuff goes good, and I hope the podcast goes good. Yeah, send me the links and I'll try and promote it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I will tag you in short clips, and I send you the link of the full interview on YouTube once it's up and running. But yeah, that was quite amazing, and I really appreciate your time and your input on all of this. I truly share a lot of the things that you talked about it. I believe that they are super important, and what a great focus to influence corporate to yes be successful, but be successful as human being, right? As being feeling successful inside and pleased and yeah, truly inspiring.
Yeah, and for the most part, they're good people, Like, it's funny that there's always this notion and belief system that they, might be greedy or whatever. But I've found almost everyone I've worked with to be genuine, really good people that want to do good in the world.
Mm,
And interestingly enough, the more progressed someone is on their pathway, either personally or professionally, the more open they are to help, which is interesting.
mm,
Like, with some of those CEOs that I work with, they would also probably have a business coach, like Mick, or you look at the tennis stars, they have multiple people in their corner. They're very
mm.
open to learning. They're very open to feedback. And that's why they're learning so much. because they surround themselves with really good people and are really open to what they have to say, and they're very curious and ask questions, and they're not just sitting back and judging everything. They're being a part of the change. So yeah, once again, thanks for your support of what I think is an important message, and I hope it inspires some people to start meditating and start really working on the quality of their life and their performance.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Matt, thank you so much. And yeah. So is just one last thing. Is the retreat in November on your website or is someone else?
Yes, it's all on the website. So if you go to thenatureofsuccess.com.au, there'll be a tab that says retreats, and there you'll see Crescent Head, you'll see Maldives, you'll see Bonneville. If you're a golfer, I also do a golfing retreat up here at Bonneville, which is the Aussie Augusta. So you can have a selection of those, and yeah, hopefully I'll see one of you guys there.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
I will. I appreciate it. You too.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.